Hello everybody, my name is Hako and welcome into my channel. Today I wanted to discuss the topic of what the hell is wrong with DBD. Or any other working title. More or less, DBD or Dead by Daylight has had kind of a banger year if you look objectively at what they have released. Yet the fatigue I feel for the game and that I'm picking up from at least my community and the people I interact with is at an all-time high. A lot of people that used to play this every single day scoff at the thought of opening it now. And I've been pondering this a lot, why is that? Because since kind of the update patch or the big balance patch of 2022, the one that happened in August, where I think that's the patch that kind of slaughtered Dead Hard, or remade Dead Hard, and then they actually slaughtered it this year. I feel like the game has been on a steady decline ever since then, and I'm trying to figure out why, and I have some theories and some thoughts about that. One, okay, so the game has been out for 7 years. It's 7, right? It's not 6. I think it's 7. And I think a lot of it is just the lack of interesting games. The lack of interesting things being inserted into the general gameplay loop. The game is still the same as it was 7 years ago. The core is still the same. There's a lot of difference, but the core is still the same. As a survivor, you sit on 5 gens, and then you try and get out. And as a killer, you try to stop them from doing just that. But there has come some tweaks and perks and whatnot since then to spice it up a bit, but it's still the same. The core gameplay of DBD is kinda boring. What you need to do to get out is kinda boring for survivors. For example, the fun parts in DBD comes from interacting with the other side. Whether it's the survivors being chased by the killers and looping the killer. That is fun. Looping is the most fun part as a survivor. It's not holding the gens. Same as a killer. The fun part of being a killer is finding the survivors, chasing the survivors, mind gaming the survivors in a loop, what have you. And I feel ever since the August patch last year, a lot has been implemented to kinda lessen interactions with the other side, if that makes sense. The games are made to go faster. Yes, they increased gen speed, but they've also taken away all regression. Not all regression, most regression for a killer, which is debatable a good thing because the matches don't take forever, but that paved way for a very gen rushy meta. I've always said that I find problematic and toxic perks for the game are the perks that shortens the game or lessens the interaction between both sides. Just as I know a lot of killer mains are gonna scoff at this, and I'm a killer main myself, but hear me out. Tunneling and capping is bad and toxic for the game. And that's why we've now seen implemented changes towards camping, for example. Although some killers can completely ignore these new changes and just do it anyway. Gunslinger, Huntress, among others. Sorry, Deathslinger. Because using camping and tunneling will lead to at least that survivor having a terrible game and possibly just leaving the game and closing it after that game is done, or midway through it, and that survivor will not have a pleasant experience of the game. And like they've been ironing out gen rushing perks, like very, like the most standard build you'll see these days is resilience, prove thyself, even though prove thyself got nerfed a bit. But yeah, the general goal now for survivors to like make it out is just gen rush and then be out. And meanwhile killers like camp a tunnel like never before. And if you just like look at the new additions added this year, they gave us Knight, they gave us Skull Merchant, and if you were to like ask a poll of every person playing Survivor, like what's the most boring killer to go against, I bet Knight and Skull Merchant would be right at the top. Because these killers are designed to promote a playstyle that is in the end harmful for the game, because it burns people out from the game. It makes them have a bad experience of it. And like tunneling, like even 7 years after release, tunneling is still like the best way to win. If you want to sweat and win, you tunnel people off hook. Like that is still the most effective way to secure your win as a killer, and that is why people do it. And like you might think it's justified, but if you just look from the perspective that everybody in the game should have fun, or like the goal is to make the 5 people playing have fun, then like tunneling is not the way to go, because like it will at least make one person miserable. And like I've seen killers talk about flashlights, toolboxes, whatnot. Like sure, but you still get to play the game even as a killer. If you're going up against a bully squad, like they will at some point mess up, and you will probably secure the win if you don't get tilted and walk away from your keyboard. Like you will still win, and you still get to play the game. Meanwhile, a survivor being capped and like tunneled a few games in a row, like if you played survivor, you have most likely sometimes booted up DBD, and like 2 hours, you can play the game for 2 hours and you barely get to play the game. Because you get camped and tunneled straight out of the game. Then you sit there with your like massive library of games and like try and justify for yourself like why should I boot up DBD when there are all these other great games to play where I actually get to play the game. Because like let's face it, the perks that exist to prevent that from happening, they are not strong enough to do what they should. And like in the same way as a killer, like if you want to try something new and you want to like go with a fun build instead of like the most sweaty one that exists, and you go up against 3 people with resilience and prove ourselves and these toolboxes, and like the gens are done with like within the 3-minute marks, like you have no chance of winning. And like no interaction is like really being made between your teams, and like once again you're like, why should I play this, and why should I play it like in a fair way? Like I think a lot of it stems from like a sense of like injustice from like both teams, and also like people take this game way too seriously. I don't know who I heard it from, but someone said that this game should be viewed kinda as Mario Party rather than League of Legends. Or something similar, like actually competitive. Like, this is not a serious game, that's why there doesn't exist like an esports side of Dead by Daylight, because like it's not properly balanced. And it doesn't work that way. It should be a fun game, like you play with friends to mess around, similar to Party Animal, similar to Mario Party, like whatever. But like both sides kind of feel like the other side has brought like guns to the playground, and then they answer like not realizing that like the last match was totally different people and like whatnot, and the game basically becomes like America, like I have to carry a gun because the next person is like probably carrying a gun, and like then everybody has guns and start shooting. Meanwhile, everybody should just like You just like chill a bit down and you just have fun. Like there are so many fun perks in the game that doesn't get used because they're not competitive enough. For example. And like it's a shame because like I think everybody that plays DBD has like a profound love for the game. Like when it is like I don't want to say play it in the right way because hate the game, not the players. Like people in play versus player games will pivot to what's the strongest, what will secure them the win. And if what will secure them the win is a playstyle that is bad for the game's health, makes a bad experience for like one side or several sides or several people, like that's on the game devs to fix, because they are basically then like rewarding this behavior. And like I think that's just like what burns people out. Like, and yeah, the big complaint I hear from survivors is camping and tunneling, like several games in a row, and like it's just boring as all hell. And from killers, like the main complaint is gen rushing. Like you should not be able to alter how fast you do a gen to the extent you can today, because like it's bullshit. And yeah, like if you bring gen perks, like they shouldn't be as strong as they are. And I know that they're nerfing some prove themselves, or that they have nerfed prove themselves, and like maybe it will be enough. Like if they continue down that path, but like then again they continuously release new perks that also help with this. So we'll see. Like basically the more interaction, like the better, and like the more interactive and fun perks they release, the better. For example, I don't think they should have nerfed Dead Hard again to the state that it's currently in, and because it was the most, like I didn't use it myself because I didn't personally like it, but it was a very interactive perk that kind of showed your skill as a survivor, and they took that away. I know some people still use it and it catches me off guard every time, but I think it's too weak in its current state. But I myself, I love the interactive perks. I always run flashbangs. I always has Princess Heart Sharon, as you can probably guess by my shirt. And like I just have a freaking blast of a time. I recently picked up Ripley's perk, Chemtrap. Also super fun, like super interactive. Like something happens. It doesn't just like increase the numbers a little bit when I'm sitting on a gen. Like it's actually a fun ass perk. And yeah, like behavior does a lot of things right, but like it's like always 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I'm kind of worried at the pace they're going now that we're soon entering into 2024. Like if they can win the goodwill of the community back, because I feel a lot of people are being burned out by the game, is leaving the game, and it's not like really looking back towards the game. And I think that's sad. Like ever since they released Sadako, I've been saying like she was my number one. I wish they add her into the game. After she was released, I'm like, all right, now they can basically only add one more person or one more killer to this game that I like really wish for, and it is the Xenomorph. And they freaking did it. Like I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the trailer for the Xenomorph, and I can now play as the Xenomorph in Dead by Daylight. And I think that's amazing, and it's such a fun and unique killer, but I have almost no want to actually do it. If that makes sense. And I don't know, I just hope they can turn it around, and I don't have a quick fix for this, like other than like rework the way the dev team maybe look at perks. Like perks that makes the games go too fast are gonna be boring. Like on either side, like either that this like the survivors just die too quick, or that the gens are done before like any chases, anything happens, and everybody's already out. Like who's the winner there? Like nobody. And I don't know. I've been saying this for a while, and like I really think that DBD needs like a DBD 2. We need Dead by Daylight 2, where things are a little bit spiced up. Like we've had some really good asymmetrical horrors released. We had Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was an absolute blast. That was like that just like showed you what you could do instead of sitting on gens. And like yeah, the game had problems on its own, but the general gameplay loop in that game is much more fun. Same with Evil Dead, which was also fantastic in its own right, but it didn't have the staying power that DBD has, because the staying power that DBD has is the up-close personal mind games across loops, and like the adrenaline you get for doing that, like you don't, like that is not replicated in any of the other games. That's why DBD is still king of the hill, even though the general gameplay loop is kinda ass and outdated. And people keep returning to it even though it has its many faults, and then people get reminded why they stop playing, and then I don't know, it becomes this like toxic relationship with this like abusive husband that is DBD almost. And me personally, I love this game. Like Silent Hill is my favorite franchise of all time. I think it's like absolutely insane that I can play as Pyramid Head still. Like I wake up every day and kind of wonder how the hell did I manage to procure this license. Like it's nuts. Like I just wish it was better, and it kind of needs to get better quick, because like people are leaving, people are losing interest. And yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre obviously wasn't the Dead by Daylight killer it was made out to be, but like something will come along, like unless DBD does something. So anyway, that I feel like I'm starting to like ramble on. What's your opinion? Are you still playing DBD? Are you burnt out of DBD? What do you think that it comes down to? Like, why are people right now like so fed up with the game? Chucky is just around the corner. Will Chucky bring me back to it? I don't know. I haven't watched the Chucky movies. I'm not overly excited for that reason, but hey, maybe it's fun. It looks like a wild killer, and if you just look at kind of the ambition level of the killers we got this year, we got Knight, Skull Merchant, Singularity, and Xenomorph. Like, they are very kind of complex killers. Like, if you look at what they do, behavior is definitely like stepping up a notch of like how complex they are making killers. The problem is that all this complexity kind of gets wasted because the gameplay loop is not complex, if that makes sense. It's like, yeah, you get like this Ferrari, but it can only go on the go-kart tracks. Like a lot of it gets wasted by the simplicity of the actual game. It's like the killers have out-evolved the game, and they don't really like fit into it, and it just becomes a little bit awkward. Anyways, I'm starting to ramble on. What's your thoughts? Am I talking out of my ass? What do you think? Until next time.